everything changed in a matter of seconds. Seriously, one moment the confetti is falling from the rafters of Levi's Stadium, the Lombardi Trophy is being hoisted into the cold California night sky, and the Seattle Seahawks are crowned the absolute, undisputed champions of Super Bowl LX. It's a beautiful scene, right? But the morning after the parade, the cold, unforgiving business of the National Football League wakes up. You see, the glory of a championship is completely intoxicating, but it is incredibly fleeting. What the television cameras don't capture when the locker room champagne finally dries up is the unseen, agonizing physical and mental toll required to build and, more importantly, keep together a championship roster. Today, we aren't just looking at a victory lap. Oh no, we are looking at the absolute bleeding edge of modern roster management. So you really have to ask yourself, can a dynasty actually survive itself? Think about that for a second. The hardest part of winning a championship isn't the climb. It isn't the draft or the rigorous, absolutely grueling summer training camps in the sweltering heat, or even the violent, terrifying playoff gauntlet. The absolute hardest part in this league is surviving the brutal roster fallout that immediately follows a title. As player values skyrocket and agents demand massive paydays, the salary cap tightens around a front office like a noose, and the hidden injury toll from playing an extra month of high-stakes football finally comes due. The target is no longer on the Chiefs or the 49ers. The target is now squarely on your back. Welcome to NFL Nexus. Listen, if you want surface-level recaps and generic hot takes, you're honestly in the wrong place. But if you want to understand the microscopic, rootless decisions that actually decide who gets to hold the Lombardi Trophy in February, well, you are exactly where you need to be. We're going to break it all down in this explainer. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what you thought. And if you are truly obsessed with the intricate mechanics of NFL team building, support the channel by becoming a channel member today. All right, let's dive into this whole shebang. Part 1. The cost of a crown. This explainer really has to begin by looking at the sheer gravity of what the 2026 Seattle Seahawks have accomplished. Taking over a team and installing a completely new culture is one thing. That happens all the time. But to summit the mountain this rapidly, that requires a defensive scheme so suffocating, so infinitely flexible, that it literally breaks the will of opposing offensive coordinators. Just look at this quote right here. Mike Macdonald turned the Seattle Seahawks into champions in just 2 seasons with one of the most dangerous defenses in the NFL. In just 2 seasons. To put that into perspective, that blistering speed of transformation is almost unheard of in the modern salary cap era. Macdonald didn't just tweak the system, right? He engineered a completely dominant unit defined by interchangeable defensive linemen and linebackers who operate with violent precision. But here's the catch. To maintain a defense this dangerous, the internal pressure cooker must be kept at a rolling boil. The players aren't just fighting the opponent on Sundays. They're in a bitter daily war against the guys standing right behind them on the depth chart. Part 2. The skeleton key emerges. Now, to truly understand how this defense chokes the life out of modern passing attacks, we've got to deeply analyze the singular, unique piece of the puzzle that unlocks Seattle's entire defensive identity. And this quote brilliantly illustrates the point. Ted Nguyen of The Athletic hit the nail on the head. He called him exactly what he is. Emmanuel is the skeleton key to the best defense in the league. Think about what a skeleton key actually represents for a second. It opens every single door. It solves every problem. Nguyen even went as far as to boldly state that if Nick Emmanuel had not fallen to Seattle in the second round of the draft, they likely wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. No way. Just let that sink in for a moment. A second-round draft pick, a single stroke of front office fortune, completely altered the trajectory of a billion-dollar franchise. While the defensive tackle duo of Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy might be the most terrifying in the entire NFL right now, Emmanuel is the exact mechanism that allows them to feast. So what's truly terrifying about his rookie campaign is the sheer volume of his impact across the board. Let's methodically break down these numbers because they paint a picture of a player doing the literal impossible. 14 games played. That represents incredible, vital durability in a violent sport for a rookie. 81 tackles. Really think about the physical toll of bringing down massive NFL ball carriers 81 separate times. Then you have 2.5 sacks, 11 pass breakups, and 1 interception. Guys, these aren't just empty statistics. This is a rookie stepping into a complex, championship-caliber defense and immediately becoming its central nervous system. Those 81 tackles, they represent a player who is totally unafraid to stick his face mask directly into the run game. Those 11 pass breakups show elite, computer-like processing speed in coverage. It is absolutely no wonder he finished second in the Defensive Rookie of the Year voting behind only Cleveland's Carson Schwarzenegger. But listen, the stats only tell half the story here. The true terror for opposing quarterbacks lies in his positional versatility. As you can see, he was drafted as a safety, yet he is frequently deployed as a nickel cornerback, covering the slot. And, terrifyingly, he attacks the line of scrimmage with the absolute violence of a traditional middle linebacker. We are talking about a human being who stands 6'3" and weighs a dense, muscular 220 pounds. When you have a player with the hip fluidity to perfectly shadow a shifty, 180-pound slot receiver all over the field, but also has the sheer physical mass and brute strength to violently engage a 320-pound offensive guard alongside Leonard Williams, well, you break the traditional rules of football geometry. Offenses literally cannot identify where the extra pressure is coming from because the safety is built like a pass rusher and moves like an elite corner. It's a real game changer. And if that wasn't frightening enough for the rest of the NFC, let's look at how he's actually evolving his arsenal this offseason. Step 1 was mastering the slot and backfield pursuit, right? He's done that. Step 2, he is literally refining his hand-fighting and pass-rushing technique with veteran edge rusher DeMarcus Lawrence. And Step 3, Emmanuel where he spent time taking actual live reps with the defensive line during organized team activities, or OTAs. Think about that. A 220-pound defensive back is training in the dirt of the trenches with defensive ends. Opposing offensive line coaches are losing sleep over this exact development. Even if he only lines up on the edge a handful of times this season, the mere threat of a hybrid force bursting off the edge forces the quarterback to hesitate. And in the National Football League, as we all know, a half second of hesitation is an absolute death sentence. Part 3. The linebacker survival fight. Let's move to the second level of the defense, where we see the dark side of this relentless pursuit of perfection. Midway through the 2024 season, Mike Macdonald executed a complete and total reset of the inside linebacker room. He cut the starters and installed veteran Ernest Jones IV alongside rookie Tyrese Knight. But loyalty in this league, it's only as strong as your last snap. And here is where the cruelty of the NFL depth chart is really exposed. Look on the left, Drake Thomas, a 2023 undrafted free agent who clawed his way from the absolute bottom of the roster to a starting role, exploding for 96 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. His reward? A 2-year, $8 million contract that cemented his status. Now, look on the right, Tyrese Knight, a former fourth-round draft pick with significant draft capital invested in him, who suddenly found himself violently plunging down the depth chart, completely relegated to a backup role. It wasn't even that Knight was playing poorly, it was simply that Thomas became an undeniable, explosive force in nature. This is the agonizing reality of the league. You can do everything right and still lose your job to a guy who was fighting for a practice squad spot just a year ago. 22. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. 22. That is the meager, absolutely devastating number of defensive snaps Tyrese Knight played after Week 11 of the 2025 season. Think about how soul-crushing that is for a young, highly touted athlete. Before Week 11, he played 285 snaps. After, 22. He was practically erased from the defensive game plan, squeezed out by the sudden emergence of Thomas and the shape-shifting dominance of Nickum and Maury, taking up the hybrid linebacker reps. But we absolutely cannot forget what Knight is capable of. Just look at the snapshot from Week 10 against the Arizona Cardinals. This wasn't just a good game, it was an absolute masterclass in backfield destruction. 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 monumental forced fumbles. I want to vividly recreate this for you. Knight violently collapsed the pocket twice, stripping the ball and feeding edge rusher DeMarcus Lawrence 2 historic scoop-and-score touchdowns in a 44-22 victory. Knight didn't just tackle, he actively removed the football from the offense's hands. Get this. Before that game, Lawrence had one fumble recovery touchdown in his entire 12-year career. Knight handed him two in a single afternoon. So the explosive potential, it's undeniable. So the absolutely crucial question is this. Entering year 3 of his 4-year rookie deal, what happens to Tyrese Knight? Will he become the most vital, overqualified injury insurance policy in the NFL? Like, if a starter goes down, he has to be ready to step in without a single drop in championship-level production? Or, in a league utterly starved for keepable linebackers, does he become prime trade bait? The margins here are microscopic. A great training camp could win him back a heavy rotation spot. Or it could be the exact showcase tape the front office needs to ship him off for future draft capital. Part 4. The ACL Timeline Trap. Okay, we've seen how the defense manages its excess talent, but let's abruptly shift our focus to the offensive side of the ball, where the Seahawks face a terrifying physical crisis that threatens to completely derail their ground game. Let's walk through this timeline, and I really want you to feel the agonizing crunch of these dates. In January, during a 41-6 blowout victory over the 49ers in the divisional round, running back Zach Charbonnet suffered the sheer physical trauma of a torn ACL. Fast forward to May, a mere 4 months post-surgery, and he's already on the field doing light high knee workouts during minicamp. And now, whispers are growing louder and louder that he's actually targeting the Week 1 opener against the New England Patriots in September. On the surface, this looks like a miraculous tale of modern medicine and pure willpower, right? But beneath the surface lies a terrifying hidden danger. Let's compare the medical reality to this Week 1 illusion. The absolute consensus among orthopedic surgeons and health professionals is that a serious ACL injury requires a grueling 9 to 12 months for the ligament to properly heal, integrate, and for the surrounding musculature to regain its symmetrical, explosive power. If Charbonnet takes the field in September, he will only be 7 months post-surgery. 7 months. Rushing a powerful, bruising 220-pound back like Charbonnet into live, violent NFL collisions before his knee is structurally sound? That's literally playing Russian roulette with his career. The biomechanics of the human knee can only withstand so much sheer torque. We only have to look at the tragic, career-altering knee injuries of players like Nick Chubb as a grim cautionary tale of what happens when massive force meets a compromised joint. It's a massive risk. Part 5. The Backfield Contingency Plan. Now, the front office obviously knows the risks. General Manager John Schneider did not build a Super Bowl roster by ignoring medical science. To insulate themselves against the massive void left by Charbonnet's recovery, they executed an aggressive, highly targeted influx of talent to completely overhaul the running back room. Let's methodically review this new backfield arsenal. They spent the 32nd overall pick, a precious, highly coveted first-round asset, on Jadarian Price. Listen, you do not spend a first-round pick on a running back unless you are actively sounding a distress signal and preparing for your starter to miss significant time. It just doesn't happen. They also brought in former Packer Emmanuel Wilson on a 1-year deal and retained George Helene, Kenny McIntosh, and Jacardio Wright. What could have been a devastating injury crisis has been completely weaponized into a violent, high-stakes battle for reps. Every single time the ball is snapped in practice, these 5 men are fighting for their NFL lives. Right now, in the intense heat of minicamp, rookie Jadarian Price and the hard-running George Helene are actively splitting the first-string reps. This battle is absolutely the most important storyline of Seattle's offseason. Why? Because every single productive rep Price and Helene take buys Zach Charbonnet time. It buys him the supreme luxury of resting that repaired ligament until late October or November. The deeper this contingency backfield can carry the offense into the grueling autumn schedule, the safer Charbonnet's long-term career becomes. It's like a giant puzzle they are trying to put together perfectly. Part 6. Building an NFL Dynasty. So as we pull back to view the entire macroeconomic and physical toll of maintaining this roster, a really terrifying picture emerges. Building a dynasty isn't about assembling 53 great players, taking a deep breath, and coasting. It is an active, daily process of breaking down and rebuilding. And this quote beautifully summarizes the entire philosophy of this organization. McDonald reinforces competition, which always leaves a chance. No job is safe in Seattle. Not the veteran linebacker who had 96 tackles. Not the former 4th-round pick who forced 2 fumbles in a single game. And certainly not the injured running back watching a first-round rookie take his handoffs. It is this immense internal pressure, this constant underlying fear of replacement used as a motivational tool that ultimately forges a diamond-tough roster capable of winning back-to-back championships. The crown is heavy, but the battle to keep it has just begun. Will the skeleton key defense hold up to the rest of the league's inevitable adjustments? Will Zach Charbonnet's knee actually survive the grueling timeline? What are your thoughts on Seattle's brutal roster strategy? Let us know down below in the comments. And remember, if you want to keep tracking the microscopic details that define champions, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what you thought. Support the channel by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the Nexus.